The following feature presentation is part of the Skywalking Network.
Welcome to Star Warsologies, the podcast about science and other academic fields of study seen in Star Wars. My name is Melissa Miller, and I'm one of your co-hosts. I'm a science writer and contributor to Star Wars Insider magazine.
And I'm your other host, James Floyd. I am also a contributor to Star Wars Insider magazine and author of Star Wars crossword puzzles and word games from a galaxy far, far away. Our episode is going to be about Star Wars and Bulgaria and translation. Our guest expert today is Nenko Genov, who is a writer and English teacher, but also translates Star Wars manga and Marvel comics into Bulgarian. Welcome, Nenko.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I'm so excited that you're joining us. This actually came about during Star Wars Celebration because my dad sits and chats with people waiting for panels. And I'm so glad that we got connected with you. I can't wait to hear more about this.
Well, yeah, I had a great chat with your dad. It was awesome. It was at the Nelvana panel, just after Ewoks and Droids discussion. And the whole situation started like I was telling how for some people this was their childhood. They grew up on Ewoks and Droids. They were born at the right time and at the right place. And for us in Bulgaria, in Eastern Europe, the world was so limited and so small, and no one knew about Star Wars Ewoks and Droids. You were lucky if you had the chance to watch the trilogy and not hear about it from other people, right? So for me, all of those things came much later with the internet, and I've been trying to catch up on all I've missed since my early days.
Amazing.
So tell us a little more about, growing up in Bulgaria at that time, and how is Star Wars perceived and shown as it came out versus now?
Well, yeah, I'm born in February 1986. So Star Wars came out before I was born, but it reached Bulgaria with many, many months and even probably years of delay. I can't tell you the exact premiere dates because it's quite poorly documented and people have different opinions. And everyone has a story about seeing Star Wars, but no one remembers the exact date and year. They somewhere in the late communism. So Star Wars was a huge deal, but after its cinematic run, it was the stuff of legend. You had no other outlets in which you could experience it. There were no books, comics, radio drama, none of that stuff, not to mention toys or video games. Basically, how I got introduced to Star Wars, I remember I was on a walk with my parents. We were passing a Subway. There was a shop with some bootleg toys, and I saw some resemblance of a lightsaber and Darth Vader. It was a cheap knockoff, but it was enough to give you the idea. And I was like, wow, it looks so cool. I want to know more about it. It's a sword that you press the button and it lights up. That's amazing. It was the early 90s. And it was the time just after our country had abolished communism and private businesses could emerge. It was a hot mess, I can imagine, because no one knew what's legal, what's not legal exactly. We had plenty of video rent stores that were just popping up in people's garages. There were knockoff videotapes recorded from German TV, for example, and someone with a microphone dubbed over the movie and all that. So very, very poor quality. And my parents said, well, yeah, you should learn about Star Wars. So they took me to a local video rent store and I saw the Star Wars poster on the wall. It was a John Berkey poster. And I saw that poster and it was like a window to another universe. Literally, I thought, wow, I want to see more. I want to open that window wide and I want to jump through it, dive into that world and lose myself in it. It was just one image, but it was enough to sell you the whole idea. So very, very powerful. And well, we rented A New Hope, and it was just like a 24-hour rent. You had to return the tape the next day. So I just watched it as many times as possible. And then I had to move on and watch further. They told me it's a trilogy. Yeah, there's a continuation. And I was like, I want to see everything. I need to know more. It always happened that a cousin of ours had copies of the tapes. So he just gave me all 3 tapes for a couple of weeks. It was everything that I did except school. Like I was coming back from school and those tapes were on a loop for as long as possible. Like I would learn lines by heart. And the movies were dubbed by, basically it was non-official. It was not an official release. Like someone had a VHS recording of the films and with a microphone, they had a translated script or something like that. And they were just reading the lines over the film. And my cousin, at that point, he was older, and he would just correct the dubbing sometimes. He didn't say to turn off the power. He said to turn it down, which is a completely different thing. And I was like, wow, that was a motivation to learn English as well.
Oh, wow. So for these do-it-yourself dubbing, did they have multiple voices at least doing the different roles?
Yeah. I mean, with time, things got legalized, and there were official video distributors and translations and dubbings got professional. But in the beginning, it was like the Wild West. You have a video recorder and a mic and you can do your own thing.
Right.
Copyright laws were very, very loose, next to non-existent.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting that you say that it was a motivation to learn English. I wonder how many people have early English vocabulary geared towards like Star Wars terms.
Well, you know what? I actually met my wife during a student exchange. And when I was a third year English philology, I spent one semester in Poland. And I was surprised because I thought, wow, guys here who are final year in their English studies have worse English than my brother who is a sixth grader. And I wondered, why is that so? And then I figured it out. Poland. It's a country that's still Eastern Europe, but much further west, much bigger country, which means much bigger market. So people had earlier access to foreign products. Let's say that you're a Microsoft and you need to distribute your Windows, or you're a film distributor. Where is there a bigger market for you to sell your product? You would first translate it to languages that give you a bigger market. And Bulgaria is a small country, far, far away. So we didn't get translations of comics, of books, of many films. Like cable TV was not translated. Like you would watch German channels in German, Cartoon Network would be in English. So kids would just learn it like sponges. They would watch Dexter's Lab or Johnny Bravo and so on. Fun fact, Rumen Petkov, Bulgarian animator, worked on both Dexter's Laboratory and Johnny Bravo. He was a collard.
That makes me very happy. I love Dexter's Laboratory.
The best.
I'm a Johnny Bravo fan, so this works for both of us. So how is it when like the prequels came out?
Well, times had changed before prequels came out. First of all, the internet was becoming part of our lives, right? And cinemas were much better equipped. And our country was, let's say, getting out of its worst years after the fall of communism. Like introducing democracy is a very nice idea, but the process is a very hard one and often convoluted with, you learn as you go. Coming back to 1999, when Phantom Menace came to the cinemas, we didn't have to wait that long. The movies were coming to Bulgaria maybe with 2 or 3 months delay after their American premieres, maybe up to half a year like it's in Japan. So we got the word that there is going to be a new trilogy. It was all over the news in media. I remember I was buying every magazine and I was cutting out articles from newspapers just to have some images and some scoop on what's to come. Everyone was very, very curious. And at the same time, you still had that limited availability of products. Like you had access to the films, but when the internet became available to me and when I learned that there is so much more Star Wars than I ever imagined, like my mind exploded. I felt like I have been thrown in a vast ocean and I have to learn how to swim and navigate because there was just so much content I never even assumed existed.
Right.
In Bulgaria, up to that point, we had just the novels based on the original trilogy. We had a translation of Splinter of the Mind's Eye and Han Solo at the Star's End. And that was it. And those were like huge events. Like, wow, it's a book based on Star Wars. And
Yeah.
I never imagined there are like hundreds up to that point.
Right. As they say, for people who can't see, obviously, like your background is just stacks and stacks of Star Wars books, right?
Yeah,
There's
I mean,
so much content.
many people say that they identify with Luke Skywalker and living on Tatooine in the middle of nowhere, being cut away from the world. But, well, if you've lived in a Western country, and especially if you've lived in the States, like, I doubt that you really had the full Luke Skywalker experience. I mean, if you were Luke Skywalker, then I was somewhere in the other wild space on a planet that had no hyperdrive technology and had no idea that the universe out there existed, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So episode 1 was about to come out, and I was wondering, well, my dad's a teacher, my mom's a shop assistant, and we are 3 kids in the family. We had a happy childhood, but there was never like plenty of money to go around. And so, of course, it's Star Wars, and of course I would watch it first day in the cinema, but I wanted to see it as many times as possible. And no one would give you an allowance to watch Star Wars 10 times in the cinema. So I had to figure out a way, how can I watch this film more and more? And so it happened that some time ago, before the premiere, my parents took me to some storage house. It was like a big hall full of crates, kind of like the end of Indiana Jones. So I was taken there by my parents, who wanted to buy me sports shoes. I don't know why we didn't go to a regular shoe shop. Like, my parents heard that there's a guy who can sell us those shoes cheaper, and they were like some brand that was, let's say, not so available, and we could get the original thing but still a bit cheaper. So we went to that storage house. Among all those goods there, I saw a full crate of Star Wars novels.
Wow.
They were the Bulgarian editions of the original trilogy novelizations. And I was like, wow, why are they here? They're like brand new, like fresh off the printing press. And they've been unavailable on the market for a couple of years now. Like, you can get them from the public library, but you can't get them in the bookstore. And the guy was like, I don't know what they're doing here. And maybe, you know, the licensing deal ran out and they had no right to sell them any further. I don't know. But there was a crate full of Star Wars books. And I thought, can I get one? He said, yeah, sure, be my guest. And I was like, wow, can I take like several? Why would you take several copies of the same book? And I thought, I don't know, it's just nice to have Star Wars books around. You know, I can give some to my friends.
Exactly.
Maybe I can sell some. And he was the business guy, so he was like, yeah, you'll sell some books? I like that kid. So, be my guest, take as many as you want, but if you really do sell some, be sure to cut me in. You know, he was, of course, joking with a 11-year-old. So I got some copies of those books. I gave some to my friends, to my cousins, and I still had like 10 copies of a book. So I thought maybe I can really sell some of those books. So me and my younger sister, who was 10 at that time, and my younger brother, who was 6 at that time, we went in front of the cinema with a shoebox.
Oh my God.
Full of the books. We put the books on top of the shoebox and we wrote some price. And we were hoping that people who came in to see Star Wars would buy books from us. And that's how we would save for cinema tickets to be able to see The Phantom Menace more than once. And I think to myself, my God, the country must have been really poor back then, because those books were cheap and we barely sold any. Like, imagine people seeing like a couple of little kids trying to sell books to save for cinema tickets, and still passing them by, not getting a Star Wars book. We were there for a day and we barely made money for another ticket, I think.
I like that early entrepreneurial spirit. So it's funny because the whole premise of this podcast is we, sort of ask people if Star Wars influenced their career path at all. And I mean, at least as a bookseller, maybe that didn't take off or whatever, but also you talking about learning English and all of that really ties into what I'd love to chat about next, which is the translations and things that you do. And that was something you were at Celebration to see the Star Wars manga authors and illustrators. Is that right?
Wow, yeah, that was just amazing because I worked on those titles and I got in touch with some of the creators via social media, and I was like, hey guys, I translated your work into Bulgarian. I would love to send you a copy of the Bulgarian edition if you would like to have it in your collection and all that. But actually meeting them in person, shaking their hands, sharing a moment, that's just priceless. It was so sweet. And I want to thank the Star Wars celebration staff. The Japanese crew was extra kind, went really out of their way. The moment I appeared for the signing with Shima Shinya, who is the artist of The Edge of Balance, High Republic manga, and it turned out that they had run out of tickets. There was a limit of 150 people who would get her autograph, and they had run out of tickets. And I was like, oh, really? My God, I came all the way from Bulgaria, and I was so hoping to meet her. It's my very first trip to Japan, my very first celebration, and I've translated her work, and they were like, really? You were the translator? You translated from Japanese or English? And I told them all the details. I introduced myself. And they said, okay, so wait here. And they went backstage. They talked to the right people, and I guess to Shima Shinya herself. And they came back with a special ticket. I took a photo of it because you needed to give the ticket to the crew when you went to get your signature. And I took a photo of that ticket because like they had given 150 tickets, and then they gave me a ticket 151S. So they marked it like
special
ticket, right? And they were really kind, took my phone because I was by myself at that moment. So they took photos of me and her. And it was just one of the many, many wonderful moments I experienced this year at Celebration.
Cool.
Very cool. So you mentioned that you translated the High Republic Edge of Balance duology into Bulgarian. What other Star Wars manga projects did you work on for translation?
I worked on the Legends of Luke Skywalker manga based on the Ken Liu anthology novel. And I translated the first volume of Leia, Princess of Alderaan.
How did your translation work come about? What was the, story and background there? Because that seems like a really cool project to get to work on.
Well, I've been advocating for more Star Wars in Bulgaria ever since I remember. Like I use every single moment I can to tell people, hey, listen, we need more Star Wars in our lives. It's really important. It's not just fun. It's relevant. It's universal messages. It gets to kids. It literally made me who I am. It's brought so much positive influence in my life. And it's a stepping stone to all sorts of other areas of art and science and storytelling and everything. So it's something that's really important. It's not just the brand. It's not a commercial product. It's much more than that. And people knew me as a fan. When my book started being published in Bulgaria, people noticed Star Wars references that I've snuck in the text or my illustrations. When the publishers needed my bio for the back cover, I always included something like, whenever he's not saving the universe from the dark side, he keeps writing and translating. So it gives you a hint. I'm a Star Wars nerd.
Right.
And so at some point, a publisher, Egmont, decided that they will try again to put more Star Wars on the market. And who's the guy to do that? And I got in touch with them about a volume of Disney comics. They had started publishing Carl Barks classics.
Oh, wow. The classic Scrooge McDuck and such.
Yeah. And in fact, it happened so that my brother got the first volume. He went through the pages and he said, you know what? I think that instead of translating it from English, they've been translating it from Polish. That's weird because on some of the panels, like there are still some Polish text in the background, like some sign. There's Polish in there, if I'm not mistaken. And I got my hands on the comic book as well. I checked it. And yeah, I thought it seems like they've really translated it from Polish instead of English. And we noticed that some of the names were translated differently than what we're used to. Like if you've seen the DuckTales cartoon on TV as a child, or if you've read Disney comics in the 90s, some of the names, like not the main characters, but Flintheart Glumgold, for example, and other, say, minor characters sometimes were translated differently. We compiled a long list of things that we need should be updated in the translation. And we told them, guys, here's where we need to brush it up a little bit to fix this thing. So if the first print sells out and you do a second print, please address these issues. And you can send us files before going to the printing presses. We would gladly read them for you and give our notes. And then they said, well, if you are so much into it and you translate from English and Polish anyway, like it's natural that you are our guy. And they suggested that I do the next volumes of Karl Barks. And I told them, okay. And just so you know, even more than Disney, I am into Star Wars, even more so. So if you ever decide to publish Star Wars, please contact me. And they said, well, so it happens that we've been thinking about it. And these are some titles that we've considered. Would you have the time to do them? And I like, yeah, I will.
I'll make the time.
I'll make the time all the time. Like, bring them in. And so after the Star Wars manga, another publisher got the rights to do Marvel comics and then some of the novels. I've been friends with the guy who used to run this publishing house. We met 20 years ago at the premiere of Revenge of the Sith. The premiere of Revenge of the Sith was a huge deal in Bulgaria. And just at the same time, his name is Hristo Kocev. So Hristo started publishing Star Wars comics as single issues, not as trade paperbacks or some omnibus volumes, but just single issues. And he came up to the premiere and gave away for free copies of the first issue of the Revenge of the Sith comic adaptation by Dark Horse. And we were so thrilled that there is anything Star Wars in Bulgarian. So that's how I befriended him. I interviewed the guy for our fanzine. And some years later, when I became a writer, I sent him a manuscript, and they thought that the book is good, and they wanted to put it out on the market. In the meantime, my brother started translating because my brother is a huge Batman fan. So he's translating DC comics for them. And I was like, okay, guys, so you made my brother's dream come true. Translate Batman and the Ninja Turtles and some Power Rangers. And I've been begging you to renew the Star Wars line for ages. So do that already. I am so hungry to work on those stories. And in the end, it was probably the last thing that Hristo did for that publishing house because he sold his business to other people and he moved on. But before he left the publishing house, he managed to get the ball rolling. Late 2024, I got the first files and I started working on the volumes. And so now Marvel is coming out in Bulgarian hardcover and it's really thrilling. And the cherry on top of the cake is the fact that Marvel and Disney and Lucasfilm approved my introductions. I write forwards for each and every of the 30 volumes that have been planned. As far as I know, it's not common for them to allow outside people to contribute to their material. But I thought, listen, we haven't had Marvel Star Wars in Bulgaria ever. The last time we had any Star Wars comics officially published in Bulgarian was like 2 decades ago.
Wow.
If you're a nerd like me and if you follow what's going on the Western market and what's being published in the US and the UK, you know your stuff. But most of the people are just casual readers who will have no idea what's Legends, what's canon, when does this story take place and all that. So it would be really, really useful if there's someone to guide you in and to help you get oriented. The publishers pitched my idea and they told me, okay, Nenko, give it a try. I submitted the first text in bilingual version in Bulgarian and English. So Lucasfilm checked the English version. They sent it back with a few notes and I got approved. And super exciting to be not only a translator, but an actual contributor to Star Wars. I think you guys know this better than anyone.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That is got to be so cool to be like, I'm a contributor, exactly as you say, to the Star Wars universe. And it's really cool that you're bringing the Star Wars universe to the Bulgarian fans that pick it up and they see your writing that helps guide them in, that you've curated it. And you said there's going to be 30 volumes?
Yeah, right now the third volume is about to hit bookstores and the plan is for 10 volumes each year.
Cool.
So it's a 3-year program, and I hope it catches on and it sells well, and we have even more in the future.
Cool.
Wow.
Well, and we didn't end up doing it at Star Wars Celebration Japan, but I am hoping to pitch the panel idea again at LA Celebration. I think it was titled "My Job is Star Wars," and it was like going to be, me, James, obviously for his crossword book, the sort of science writing type things that I do. So if you come to LA Celebration, we should put you in the pitch for that panel because it's just so interesting. The idea is to like talk about the sort of non-traditional, though jobs people don't necessarily know about, of these Star Wars fans who are, it's not always a full-time job, not always, amazingly paying job, but, something that we all love because it does mean we're contributing. Like the day my Wikipedia entry name showed up, I was like, woohoo, I've made it, kind of thing. So I understand the enthusiasm.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I hope I make it to LA.
Right.
The world is a turbulent place right now, so who knows what's going to happen till 2027.
Yeah, very true.
I hope I'll be there.
Right. Yeah.
And speaking of that, like the ultimate goal for me is to contribute with fiction. I would love to tell my own Star Wars story, and I think that it's so good. It's great that Star Wars these days, like there's a tagline, Star Wars is for everybody. Star Wars is for everyone.
Yeah.
And people sometimes misinterpret that it's trying to be sold to everyone. Like it's a brand that everyone can consume, but it's different for me. Star Wars has different meaning and means everyone can find themselves in the Star Wars universe.
Right.
And the more voices you bring in, the more diverse and colorful, various you make it, the more interesting it's for everyone. Because I love, for example, the Star Wars Visions Volume 1 and Volume 2 shows. Yeah. Those short animated films are just amazing, not just visually, but as a representation of a different point of view, different storytelling traditions. I couldn't be more excited about that. I don't care if it's canon or legends or out of continuity. It's someone's spin on Star Wars, which is timeless and gives you canvas to express yourself and make it universal, like to bring your own experience to other people who wouldn't normally get it. But when you put it in the Star Wars context, they get it. Right. I had a lovely conversation with Dr. Chris Kemshaw at Star Wars Celebration.
Yeah.
He's a lovely guy, and I was telling him, if I write a book about my childhood in late communist and early post-communist Bulgaria, if I write a book about being mugged on the way back from school and finding my apartment being burglared and our VHS player being stolen, if I write about the government hiding the fact that there was an emergency at Chernobyl power plant and people in my country died because of the lack of information and all that, it won't be exciting for everyone. It would find just a limited audience. But dress that in Star Wars clothes, like make Bulgaria a planet in the Outer Rim, turn political parties into Star Wars fractions. And you can tell that very personal experience in a very universal way that reaches out and entertains, but also helps people learn something new, identify with your characters. It's amazing that Star Wars brings people together in this way.
Yeah.
It's a platform for understanding each other.
Right.
It's like a Toronto of storytelling.
Yeah.
like universal language that everybody gets.
Yeah, that's a really, really cool way to put it. And, like you say, to, take your own experiences and then Star Warsify it, but that makes it more accessible to people and it doesn't necessarily hit them over the head because it doesn't take place in our real world.
Right. Yeah. And, I'm glad that you got to talk with Chris because we're recording this before we record with him, but the episode right before yours comes out will be with Chris talking about, the anti-fascism themes and how that relates maybe to the world today. So it's all tied together, and your interpretation or your feeling about that's one of the shirts I have is that Star Wars is for everyone. You have the same idea about it as I do, where it's like not every Star Wars is for me, but every Star Wars is for somebody, and that's their, main connection to Star Wars, and it doesn't have to be for me.
Yeah, for Star Wars, you would consume some content. It's easier to say consume content than read books, listen to music, watch documentaries, and enlist all that. Let's say that you're into a certain type of music. You listen to rock music or something like that. and you never ever imagine yourself on a classical music concert. But because of Star Wars, that music, the orchestra starts speaking to you, and you find the beauty of it, and you're like, wow, that's wonderful, that's amazing. Star Wars is a stepping stone to that.
Yeah.
And you start paying attention, who's John Williams, who's Jerry Goldsmith, and Basil Poliduris, or all that. For example, recently I saw a post about someone comparing images of Boba Fett and Cat Bane to Clint Eastwood and Lee Van Cleef. And I was like, because of that, some people would reach out and they will see, who's Lee Van Cleef? Who's that guy? What's his business?
Right.
And they would stumble upon spaghetti western. Maybe they would go down that rabbit hole and learn about a whole different aspect of culture that they would never get into in the first place if it wasn't for Star Wars. Because there's such a mixture of influences. Like George Lucas put into the blender all that he liked and pressed the button, and we got Star Wars.
Yeah.
But when you try to identify the ingredients that went into it, you're like, well, I want to know more about this, and I want to know more about that. It's the same when it comes to art, to history, to politics, all of the influences and what made Star Wars Star Wars. Like if you dig down and you follow the roots, you end up in amazing places.
Yeah. I'm really glad that I made it a priority to go to Japan for Star Wars Celebration, because it was really amazing to see how Japan's fandom is and representation of the local fandom and the way that it's wrapped into their culture. Was just really amazing to see, especially knowing that George Lucas was influenced with Japanese culture when writing it. So I assume you had the same experience, but I'm curious about what that was like for you. And then also like what the local convention scene is like in Bulgaria. I know you're based in Poland now. What is the con scene like in Eastern Europe?
Well, about the first question about my experience in Japan, it was my first time in Japan, so it was a mind-blowing experience, right? It's a whole nother world. It felt like I traveled to Galaxy Core for the first time in my life,
Yeah.
Seeing all those things that I've only seen in documentaries, read about in books and spotted in anime. And I was amazed by the fact that some people, like on social media, they were being devastated about the fact that they couldn't get an exclusive Star Wars t-shirt, that some limited toy was sold out.
Right.
And I'm like, people, like, I don't want to tell you how to live your lives.
Right.
But hear me out. You're in Japan, guys, and you're there for a limited time. Do you need another t-shirt and do you need another figure on your shelf? Or do you prefer to breathe in this experience? Go and dive into it. It's just an unbelievable place to be.
Yeah.
Experience it as much as possible and don't concentrate on what you bring back in your suitcase and what's in your shopping bag. Instead of just running around and experiencing as much as possible, you were stuck in a line. Yeah, maybe you talked to someone nice.
Right.
But still, like, don't concentrate on the merch side of it. Star Wars, it will never get better than the shared experience and being among the fans and experiencing the stories. And that's maybe the dark side of fandom, I would say.
Yeah, it's an interesting part of Celebration, I feel like, every time. And like San Diego Comic-Con has that same sort of thing where this like small minority of people, that's what they're about. But it's easy to get caught up in it. But I'm glad that that you didn't. I think James, since he brought his family or whatever, it's like you also got to sort of walk around and just experience being there.
Yeah. Celebration for me is all about seeing friends that I don't get to see for years. So it is all about the people, and there's so many people I've met at, previous celebrations that I become friends with, and even outside of Star Wars stuff. And, we stay connected. If I happen to go visit where they live, I'll look them up. Star Wars, like you said, is a portal to all these new worlds, but also a portal to connecting with other people. And, that's part of the fun of it for me.
Yeah. Well, I think that you said, Nenko, that was it Wedge was coming to your local Poland Comic-Con?
Yeah, Dennis Lawson maybe he's here already. I don't know. The con starts on Friday. It's called PyrCon. It happens in Poznan every year, but it's my first time going there. And I'm going to host a couple of panels with foreign writers. Julie Kagawa is going to be one of the people I'm going to talk to. And Kevin J. Anderson was about to be here. He was in Bulgaria last year, and I missed him just by we were so close to each other.
Oh, no.
And I couldn't shake his hand. Like, I grew up reading his novels because even if we didn't have so much Star Wars back in the 90s, at some point the X-Files exploded. And we had like a dozen of X-Files books, most of them written by him. So he was an influence. And later on, I read all his Star Wars comics and novels. And I wanted to meet him. When I got to know that he's coming, I reached out. It happened, I learned about his appearance way too late. And I told him, okay, listen, you're going to be at the booth of my publisher. So I know those guys. They're super cool. And I can leave them a book. So you can sign a book for me. And he said, yeah, sure, no problem. I will do that. And I told him, well, I have all of your Star Wars, like the entire Star Wars bibliography. So now it's a very tough choice for me to choose which one. and he said, so bring them all.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he's joking. He can't be serious. And he said, no, I'm going to be there for hours. Have plenty of time to sign all of your books. So my entire suitcase was in fact Star Wars novels and comics. And he literally signed every single one of them.
Wow.
And I told him, listen, I want to shake your hand and I want to spend some time with you. I want to hang out. And he said, okay, I would gladly come to Poland if I have the opportunity. And I reached out to the organizers of PureCon and I told them, listen, I can make it happen. J. Anderson is very eager because I owe him a beer. He's very eager to travel to Poland, and we organized it all. But unfortunately, he had an event earlier. He was at a con in Greece with John Jackson Miller. He got a bug. He was feeling quite down for some time, and it wasn't safe for him to travel. He was devastated by the fact that he had to cancel, but already arrangements are in place for him to still come next year if he's, of course, able to do that. Since everything was arranged, I'm going to PureCon for the first time, and so it happened that Wedge Antilles will be there. So why not? Last year they had Jonas Suotomo, but I couldn't be there. I was.
That's awesome.
Anthony Daniels is actually coming to Bulgaria in July, in early July.
Oh wow!
Nice.
An adventure Comic Con in Sofia, Bulgaria. So C-3PO is going to be there.
Right. Awesome.
That's cool.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, tell us about your favorite Star Wars character.
Well, there are so many. So if it's to be one of the main characters, I would say I love Chewbacca. Because how can you not? He's like flawless. He's flawless character and he never puts himself first. Doesn't make a big deal out of himself. And he's always there when you need him. He's the most loyal of friends. So I love him for that.
Yeah, I like that.
And if it's about to be my Globshito, also a tough choice. I am in love with the Crimson Corsair design.
Oh,
I would
yeah.
love to see more of him in live action. That story about Count Dooku's treasure is so good.
Yeah, from the Aliens book by Landry Q. Walker.
Yeah, spoiled for people who haven't read it, but I highly recommend it. And if you're into Clone Wars, you definitely need to read that story.
Cool.
Yeah.
And who was the Star Wars character you used as like a allegory for yourself earlier? I forget, in terms of editing and lore checking and stuff like that. I think it was before we started.
Well, I compared myself to the keeper of the holocron for Bulgaria. Like I said, I'm the Bulgarian version of Leland Chime because I currently run like table charts with Star Wars lore and how it's translated into Bulgarian and how we need to keep it consistent in any future publications.
Right. We didn't even get into that aspect of your work. So.
Yeah. So. Okay. I do have one question. When did you first see the holiday special?
The holiday special. Well, when I got to know that something like that exists because I heard wave files of Boba Fett lines which were not in the films, like, "I'm Boba Fett, the ship you seek is nearby. I take it you have no love of the Empire." And I'm like, well, that's not from the films and it's not from any video game I know of. And I traced where did those files come from, and it turned out that there's something called the Star Wars Holiday Special. It must have been like the year 2000, probably.
Okay.
Or 2001. And I started looking out for it, searching the internet, and there were different ways to get your hand on copyrighted content without actually paying for it.
Right.
So I think I waited a couple of weeks in order to get my hands on a very low resolution video of the holiday special, and it was like I felt like Indiana Jones who just dug up something that's part of history and has never seen the light of day for 1,000 years.
That's so funny.
Same about Ewoks and droids. Like I got my hands on just a handful of episodes. Then years later, a friend of mine got me the DVDs from the US, but they were still not the complete series.
Right.
And when finally they got released in glorious HD on Disney Plus, I was like, yes,
Right.
thank you. And for some weird reason, they are not available in Poland. Like, you have Disney Plus subscription, but the Star Wars Vintage Collection is not available in Poland. I've been phoning the guys and sending angry emails. I mean, very, very polite emails. Some weird reason they are not available here. They are available in Bulgaria and you can watch them there, but they have not been, I guess, dubbed or translated into Polish. So I would gladly translate them.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, here's another job for you.
Yeah, it's been very fun to see the Ewoks and droids sing again because I am the 80s kid who grew up with them. But the holiday special I only watched for the first time a few years ago, and that's just as hard to get in the US. It's like, the YouTube, someone's recording their TV, with the commercials or whatever still. So I'm glad you asked that, James, because I had the same, I was curious when you said your favorite character was Chewbacca, so.
The quality was so poor that when I watched it years later, it was like watching it again for the very first time. It was like a restoration project. But I remember that when first images of Solo, a Star Wars story, started circulating around the internet, and there was a frame of Chewbacca head to head with another Wookiee, and I thought it's Mala, his wife, and I was like, they will bring back his family. They will show the Wookiee family. Yes, and then it was different. But I am like one of the make Solo to happen guys.
Right.
Bring us to Kashyyyk, give us his family. I know he has a wife and a son.
Right.
They're out there.
Right.
If someone was getting interested in becoming a translator of Star Wars stuff, how would they go about doing that?
Well, I don't know if there's a certain recipe, like it happens differently with every single one of us. Like I told you how I got into it. But I think that if you're passionate about what you're doing and if you don't try to do it for the money, it's just purely out of passion and it's what you want to do, sooner or later, someone will notice you and maybe you will stumble upon the right guys. Like for me, it took much longer because I was much further, and had I been born and raised in the US, I guess that I would have been in Star Wars like 2 decades ago, maybe. Who knows? I would be applying for internships in Lucasfilm on every single occasion until I get in. And if you are far away like I am, if you're in a distant country and you feel cut off from where things happen, at least nowadays we have social media, maybe be vocal about who you are and what you do. Maybe someone will need your specific type of expertise. I mentioned Star Wars Visions. It's lovely that Volume 2 expanded out of Japan and gave voice to studios from different countries. If you're a storyteller, if you're into animation or something like that, maybe you will get the opportunity to tell your own story or work on different language editions of Star Wars content in your own country.
Yeah, I love that.
Well, thank you so much for being on, Nenko. We really enjoyed this, so thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for talking to us about this. I'm so glad my dad connected with you at Celebration and you shared everything with us.
Thank you, guys, for having me. It was really the most enjoyable, nerdy conversation I've had ever since Celebration for a long, long time. I would gladly have another hour or 2 or 5.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Well, hope to see you in LA. Take care.
Hope to see you too, guys. Take care. May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you. I love it.
That wraps up this episode of Star Warsologies. We want to thank our guest, Nenko Genov, and we want to thank all of you for listening.
If you're looking for the links and other things that we talked about, check out our show notes page available at skywalkingthroughneverland.com/star-warsologies. And also check out our Star Warsologies YouTube channel where we post some of these episodes with related visuals.
We will be at San Diego Comic-Con. I will be hosting a panel on Thursday on Star Wars Andor called Star Wars Andor Resistance and Rebellion, looking especially at Season 2. And if you have an idea for a topic for Star Warsologies or know an expert we should interview, please let us know at Star Warsologies on Instagram and Blue Sky or at starwarsologies@gmail.com. We also have a cool fan group on Facebook. It's the Star Warsologies podcast fan group. So join today, chat with us and your fellow listeners.
And please also rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on your favorite service and share it with your friends.
No topic is off limits, even asking what topics are off limits. Also, my Star Wars book, Star Wars Crossword Puzzles and Word Games from a Galaxy Far, Far Away, is out from Chronicle Books and is available at your local bookstore or on bookshop.org, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other online places.
We are part of the Skywalking Network, where you can find a variety of other great shows about Star Wars, Disney, and Marvel, including Talking Apes, the Neverland Clubhouse, and the flagship show Skywalking Through Neverland. And there's also a YouTube show, Today in Star Wars History. You can find all of that at skywalkingnetwork.com.
See you next time on Star Warsologies when we share our panel from San Diego Comic-Con.
Woo! Comic-Con!
Comic-Con!